world, let's chat it up. We're talking competitions, uniforms, and all of the above. It's the Cheer Mom, yes, the Cheer Mom podcast. Cheer Mom, yes, the Cheer Mom podcast. Cheer Moms, your podcast is on.
Have you ever met someone with a tattoo and asked them why they chose that specific tattoo? They probably had a story about how it's significant to them. I have 3 tattoos, and they all have a very deep and meaningful significance to me. And every time someone comments on one, I'm like, thanks. And then I give them like a 5-minute explanation about why it's important to me. Even if tattoos aren't your thing, I think that we all need little encouragements and things that are specific to us that remind us of the things we love most and the words that motivate us to keep going. And that's why I started TCC Jewelry. The necklaces, bracelets, and rings are simple and engraved with little words that have special meaning, like hit 0, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, 1, 3, 5, 7, and more. And check out the new collections like the Faith Collection and introducing the Dance Collection, baseball, softball, and volleyball collections. Get something special for yourself or that special athlete or coach in your life today by visiting tccjewelry.com and enter coupon code CheerMomPod for 15% off your order. That's tccjewelry.com and enter coupon code CheerMomPod for 15% off. This episode of the Cheer Mom podcast is brought to you by Apollo Performance Socks. These aren't just any socks. They're a game changer for everyone in the cheer industry. Athletes, coaches, moms, I'm talking everyone. Listen to the rest of the episode to learn more and to find out how you can get 10% off your order of Apollo socks. Coming at you live from Orlando, Florida. It's the Cheer Mom podcast. I am in Orlando. When you travel so much, sometimes you forget which city you're in. I don't know. I have podcasters that I listen to, and sometimes they go on tour and stuff, and they say things like that, like, oh, what city are we in? And I roll my eyes because I just do. And now I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, don't even know what city I'm in. I'm in Orlando. I'm here, just finished week 1 of 3. For those who missed a podcast episode last week, I apologize. Sometimes I get up over my skis when it comes to what I think I'm going to be able to get accomplished. And podcast was not one of them last week, as I was traveling and getting acclimated to East Coast timing. Okay, but I'm here and I'm sitting in my Airbnb holding my podcast microphone like a true Gen Z person, a true Gen Z podcaster. I'm liking these podcast sets where they like sit on a couch with blankets and hold their microphones. I'm kind of digging it, and so I might need to make my own changes. I'm always changing the Cheer Mom podcast studio. I haven't quite been absolutely thrilled with it, so maybe I need a couch and some pillows. Maybe that's what's missing. So I'm here for cheerleading. Will do photo shoots throughout my time here, and it's always a great time to have meetings and kind of network in the cheer industry, learn more about things so that I can pass the knowledge and information on to you. I've definitely realized this season that while I want to and like to know people in different areas of the industry and get information or learn new things, I'm here for you. I'm here for you guys. And so I've definitely learned this season about like balancing that, and like, I'm not here to like be some mogul in the cheer industry. I'm here to serve other cheer parents and serve cheer moms and commiserate with you about the hard stuff and celebrate with you about the happy stuff. And None of that requires knowing every single detail about the score sheet or the industry or things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. I mean, the score sheet matters more than most things, but hopefully you know what I mean. I have been surfing the Facebook groups a lot, and the subject has come up. So Worlds just finished. The cheerleading Worlds just wrapped up. It's electric in there. The arena at ESPN Wide World of Sports is so amazing for Worlds. And I know people in the industry, event producers and judges and former athletes and parents of younger athletes that all come out to watch good cheerleading. Like they don't have skin in the game. They pay to be there because they want to experience great cheerleading. And it really is, if you have the chance to see Worlds, I know it's like during the testing time of school and the end of the school year, but especially if you're local and you have the chance to come out for the weekend of Worlds, I highly recommend it. It is just so cool, and it's serious competition, and there's nothing like the atmosphere and environment of Worlds. And I think I've said that before, but I can't overstate it, because these athletes they're serious, they're competitors, but there's this camaraderie around it that you just can't explain. I have to wonder if it's like, you've met your equals and you're with your equals and you've met your match. I don't know. But Summit is already underway, and I've been in the Facebook groups a lot lately, and there's a lot of talk about the prestige of Summit, and it's been a controversial conversation. I think that the cheer mom community is divided on this topic. So I wanted to take a minute or 2 or 20 or however long it takes to break that down a little bit and then give my thoughts. So when the Summit first started, was very exclusive and very, in hindsight, in the grand scheme of things, very few teams got bids to the Summit and competed at Summit. I wish I had that number in front of me, how many teams actually competed. But then I would go down the rabbit hole of like, well, how many all-star teams were there at that time? The ADHD kicks in, and then you would not get a podcast again. So there were very few teams. And when we came onto the scene, I believe it was only like the second or third, maybe the fourth year of Summit during Abby's first D1 All-Star Elite competitive cheer experience. And I was like, well, what's the Summit? And you guys heard me kind of ask Justin and Damien, who created the Summit and is like the brains and the heart behind it from Varsity. You heard me ask, like, how did you make it such a big deal? And this huge event, like, how did this happen? And Justin said, you guys asked for it. Like, parents, coaches, gym owners wanted this. And so we provided the avenue. And it was this, you had to be the best of the best. And it was really hard to get a bid. And what ended up happening was there were so few bids available, or divisions were crowded when it came to getting a bid, and the way you got a bid was different from competition to competition. So sometimes the overall, depending on how many bids they can offer in a single event, and I wonder how many times I'm going to say bid in this episode, but depending on how many bids the event is able to offer, and I don't really know how all of that works. Sometimes the division winner of like all of level 3, that team gets a paid bid, and then every winner of the subdivisions gets an at-large bid. But sometimes it's very complicated on the bid process, and the later you get in the season, some teams already have a bid, so sometimes they'll go the next one down. I don't know if this is still the case, but up until very recently, I know that events had the option to not give their bids at all. If they didn't think teams deserved a bid, they wouldn't give them a bid. So as I have been told, I don't know that I've seen that actually like on paper, like black and white, where like all the bids that were available weren't given out. But at any rate, it was really hard to get a bid. And like Damien said, they added the wild card round to sort of allow more teams to have that second chance at getting into the summit. And I remember when wild card first came out, a lot of people were like, ugh, like, wild card, like you don't even get to, I was one of them. I was like, you don't even get to be in the competition. Like you have to fly to Florida, stay in Orlando, just so that you can try for the chance to be in the actual competition. No, thank you. And then somebody brought up the point that kind of gave me some perspective on it, that everybody gets one chance at the summit. Everybody gets one performance to prove what they have, because some teams don't move on to finals. And so you only get to compete the one time. And wild card allows you to also have that opportunity. You just have to, at the time, it was you competed on Friday and you had to compete 3 days if you made it to finals. And now if you pass through the wild card round, you go straight to finals, I believe. It changes all the time. And like I said, I might do a formal episode on bids again, because as things change, I can do updates. But the wild card round was kind of looked down upon, and now it's like, well, yeah, we'll take a wild card. If you want to give us a wild card, absolutely. But back when bids were so hard to get, it became all about getting the summit bid and the strategy of the summit bid. And are we going to get a bid? Are we going to get a bid? Are we going to get a bid? And it became only about that for the season, for the whole cheer season. And we're only going to go to competitions that offer a bid. And where are our competitors going to be competing so we can go over here to this other competition that's offering bids and not have to go up against them? There was a strategy one year, our gym, and I actually agree with it. They were like, well, we're not going to go to NCA. We are going to go over here to this smaller competition while everybody else is over here playing at NCA. And we're going to go over to this other competition and get our bid there. Like, I think that that's smart. Now, NCA is probably a poor example, because now I'm like, well, I want to be at NCA. I'll get back to that in a second. But it just got to be Summit was the only thing that mattered. And I liked what both Justin and Damien said, that they started giving out more bids. Now, some people see it as a money grab, and I don't want to undermine that line of thinking. Of course, varsity and the other events that benefit from people wanting a bid to Summit are going to benefit financially. But at the end of the day, guys, this is a business. So I'm not going to harp on that. And maybe this is my rose-colored glasses, Pollyanna personality in this sense. But I really do think that the intentions on the whole are good and not financially driven. That's a component. But they started offering more bids so that people would enjoy the season and it wouldn't be so all about the summit, all about the summit. I think I've told this story before, but at one point there were gyms that kind of almost banded together or had a conversation like, are we going to keep doing this? Are we going to keep chasing bids? I'm like, I'm all for, let's boycott the summit, because this is ridiculous. That's all that matters. And we're missing out on great competitions just because, and the kids are devastated. They won first place, but they're devastated because they didn't get a summit bid at this amazing competition that they otherwise would have enjoyed. I was so anti-summit for years because that was all that mattered. And so I appreciate that there are more bids available and that people can have the opportunity to have that experience at the summit. This episode of the Cheer Mom podcast is brought to you by Apollo. I've never met a cheer mom who doesn't want to keep their athlete healthy and injury free. We all do. But did you know that common cheerleading injuries like plantar fasciitis and ankle sprains can often be prevented just with having the proper support? That's where Apollo Performance socks come in. I wear them at night. I wear them when I travel, even just lounging around the house. And I know that they are changing the game for cheer athletes at practice and on the competition mat too. Apollo socks can even be a wonderful substitution for bulky leg braces, ankle braces, and even KT tape. And many athletes don't even need to use their heel cups anymore either. The difference in comfort and recovery is incredible. Apollo socks are designed to provide targeted support, reduce inflammation, and help your cheer athletes stay on the mat doing what they love. Visit apolloperformance.com and use code CHEERMOM2024 for 10% off. That's APOLLA performance.com and enter CHEERMOM2024 for 10% off. Someone in the Facebook group made a comment about it's just not, the prestige is lacking, and teams that don't score high are making it into the summit and diluting these divisions and crowding the divisions. One parent said something about, like, do they even deserve to go to summit if they're not consistently scoring high through the season? It just seems like a waste. And I hear you on that. I hear you, like, going to Orlando and spending all of the days away from school, away from work, staying in expensive hotels. I remember one year Abby and I stayed at a hotel, and I calculated it up. We spent like $500 just in snacks. Just in, like, oh, I'm going to run to Starbucks and get a muffin, or I just need something to hold me over till after we compete. $500 in like one weekend. I get that it's expensive, and it's like, what are we doing? Is this really worth it? And that's definitely a conversation that we need to keep having. But right now, the cheer world is kind of the wild, wild west again, where there are so many options. And I think that it's more, or it's becoming more about how can we end the season with a bang? How can we give the kids the experience that ends their season on a positive note, on a memorable note? And that's the vibe that I get from a lot of these event producers. Someone made a comment, and I don't think she would mind me saying it. It was Coach Sunny Wheeler. She said, prestige is in the eye of the beholder, because sure, it's easy to get a bid to this, that, and the other competition in Orlando, but we've talked about NCAA being the most prestigious competition of the year, and anybody can sign up and go to NCAA. So it's in the eye of the beholder. Like, what are we? I understand that maybe we view it as like almost like the Olympics, where you have to like qualify to even compete, but you still do have to qualify to compete. It is easier to qualify, but I'm here to say there are teams that wanted a summit bid that did not get a summit bid. There are teams that wanted a world's bid that did not get a world's bid, were not able to compete. And I've physically met them this week. And so not everybody who wants to compete at the summit or compete at Worlds or compete at All-Star Worlds or D2 Summit or Youth Summit, not everybody who wants to gets to. So it's almost like, where is the line, I think? Because especially with the scoring system changing and being tweaked every other year, that line's going to move, and the bar and the standard might be lowered, it might be raised, and we're constantly going to be moving that finish line. And if I'm really going to get deep and on my soapbox, what message are we sending to the kids that finish line keeps getting moved and the feeling of success is unattainable? I think in this hustle culture that we live in right now, it's really difficult for all of us. We move so fast that stop and smell the roses has lost its meaning. And we forget to celebrate, like I said in the last episode, the small wins. And if we're not showing that example to our kids, that cycle is just going to continue. And that feeling of not being good enough in an industry that expects you to be perfect, that feeling is going to be compounded. And then you get into mental blocks and mental health issues and anxieties. And, I'm not saying that all that goes back to whether or not you get a summit bid, but I do think that there is something to be said about the experience. I think that every level 6 and 7 athlete, and apparently some level 5 athletes internationally, anyway, I think that every world's athlete deserves the chance to experience what it's like to compete at Worlds. I do. It's even if you know that you're not going to win first place, I understand the mentality of why even go, because the experience, it's unmatched. The vibes at these venues, these event producers, not just at Summit, but All-Star Worlds. If you have not been to All-Star Worlds, their media and their production, they All Out doesn't even begin to describe it. They go to like infinity and beyond with their production, and these kids get to compete on this stage with flashing lights, and there's LED screens, and they get to see themselves on screen, and the parents get to see themselves, and the parents get to see their kids and on screen, and they have light shows and all of these things that they don't get in a regular season competition. I think that every kid deserves to have something special to end their season with. And while I understand the competitive nature of something like a tournament that we're all familiar with, where there's an elimination round, I get that. But we also have that elimination round in cheerleading at the Summit, at Worlds, at all of these end of season competitions where the cream does rise to the top. And even if you are not among the top, even if you don't make it to finals, I talked to someone she's in her 20s now, and she competed with a small D2 gym at the cheerleading Worlds her senior year of high school. And she said, we knew we weren't gonna make it to finals. We didn't go in with that expectation. Of course we wanted to. Of course you want to make it to finals, but they were there because they were a team, they were together, and they truly felt like family, and they wanted to experience that world stage together. And they went in knowing, we're going to do our best, we're going to have fun, and we're going to relish in this experience. And she said it was one of her best cheer memories ever. I talked to Coach Maggie, who she's been a professional cheerleader and has competed on the world stage, and many other world's athletes who have gone on to be professional cheerleaders or cheer in college. A lot of them have said, I don't remember what level I competed on back in this year, that year. I don't remember if we made finals. So it does matter. I know that we're spending so much money and we want them to do well, but there are other measurements of success. And I think that's worth sitting with a little bit and reflecting on. It's my take, my 2 cents. Also, what other opportunity do these kids have to see what's possible, to see athletes that are better than them, that they want to strive to be like, to see athletes from all over the world, and man, seeing what cheerleading looks like in Japan now and the UK and South America. Like, it's so cool to see how these athletes are interpreting cheer and how their choreography is different from ours. That's part of the experience to build into, to see athletes and experience athletes from all over the world and appreciate and respect their performances. And Canadian cheerleading, man, they took some titles this year. And not that I expected any different, but they just come back stronger and stronger every year. Now, I know that divisions can get overcrowded. When you get into that J2, J3 territory, there's so many athletes on those levels, and I get it. But I see coaches and owners actively advocating for those athletes in splitting divisions, actively trying to put together teams that will be advantageous to those athletes, maybe joining a smaller division or making a smaller team so that they're not competing against some of the gyms that have more resources or what have you. I see it. And so let's go into this season with this upcoming season, maybe the thought of giving coaches, owners, people in the industry a little bit more benefit of the doubt, while also looking through different lenses of our own, that every competition counts, every event matters, everything counts. So over the next few weeks, I have tryouts, end of season stuff on the brain. So I am going to talk a lot about tryouts and evaluations and disappointments and get some advice from coaches as we wrap this season up, as we look forward to the next season. It's actually kind of my favorite time of year now that I think about it. Favorite time of year is this ending on a big high note in Florida and then going right into evaluations. I know we roll our eyes and complain about it, but I just love like new beginnings and fresh starts and seeing everybody making their team announcements and what teams are people going to have and are these teams going to stay together. And I really just kind of, and it's the time that I went viral for the first time. Cheer moms talk about nothing more than what team we're going to make and our athletes are going to make, not we. What team our athletes are going to make and what team our gyms are going to have. So it's an exciting time. I'm grateful for all of you. Please take a moment to leave a review. Hopefully it's a 5-star review. Leave a comment. I'm thrilled. There's like over 100 something reviews on the podcast. I'm just so grateful for you. I would love to have more because it makes me look good in front of Apple and gets the podcast in front of more people. And imagine how lost you felt when you didn't know what a summit bid was. And so many of you, I'm so grateful. So many of you have said that the podcast has helped you. And I would love for it to help even more cheer moms. So hit that subscribe button, leave a review, leave a comment, and I will be back really soon with another episode. We're going to talk about cheer mom superlatives and how to reflect with your athlete on the previous season and talk about what to tell your athlete when they say, I'm done, I want to quit, I'm not doing cheer anymore. Till next time, remember, it is just cheerleading. Stay cool, stay hydrated. I'll see you soon.
What up, party people? This is Jason Larkins, host of the Let's Talk Cheer podcast, and I've teamed up with Kristen Wheeler of the Cheer Mom podcast and Dan Cotton of the Cheer Biz podcast.
That's right. Hey, everybody, Kristen here. We know that you love cheer, so why not dive into more perspectives? Tune into my podcast, the Cheer Mom podcast, for cheer issues spoken from the parent's perspective. Then head over to Dan's podcast, the Cheer Biz podcast, to learn from a gym owner on how to run a successful cheer business. And of course, don't miss the Let's Talk Cheer podcast featuring Jason Larkins, the one that we all know and love, where they talk about cheer from a coach's perspective.
Which means whether you're a coach, a cheer parent, or a gym owner, we've got you covered. Find all 3 podcasts on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and stay tuned for new episodes each week.